Welcome back to the program. Thank you for your work in exposing what's going on in Ohio. Tell me what you found here. We have some of the clips that you provided to our producers to play.
So, Benny, I actually narrowed down the scope of daycares to daycares that are open Monday through Sunday. And you have to ask yourself, when a daycare is open from 6 a.m. to some are claiming midnight, that just raises red flags. So all I was doing was going with the team to knock on a door and ask how much it costs to go there and what the application process is. And I have been met with extreme pushback, between assaults where people are physically putting their hands on me and pushing me out of buildings, to screaming at me. And I've gotten the police involved because this is what's shocking. Daycares are supposed to be open. They have our taxpayer dollars. These are all funded by the governor's office and the Department of DYS in Ohio. So when you come in as a mother and you say, how much does it cost to be here? You would think they'd have that detail and data readily available, but they don't. They don't want to answer simple questions. And I have not said that there's fraud. All I'm doing is asking questions. We need sunlight in these types of operations. Ask yourself, Benny, why are these places boarded up? Why are they open from 6 a.m. to midnight? Who exactly is sending their kids there? The fact that they can't answer any just normal basic questions tells you that they're hiding something. And in particular, the home healthcare centers is where I started my research here, because I have whistleblowers, Benny, that are saying we would not rubber stamp home healthcare services for the Bhutanese, Somalian, and all these other communities because they don't need it. So they're forum shopping for somebody else to rubber stamp the paperwork, and they're committing alleged massive fraud in the state of Ohio. So we have a problem here, and we have to get to the bottom of this. And if state officials aren't going to do the work, then I'm going to roll up my sleeves and start getting to work on this and exposing it.
Why are they rubber stamping this? It does seem like if you have a name that starts with Muhammad and you apply for a daycare or a home health care role, or a healthcare company, or the Somali Education Resource Center, that there's like this wink and a nod that you're just going to get everything that you want right away, and nobody's going to ask any questions. There's going to be no diligence done. You're looking at a $42 million door here. $42 million has poured into this organization. I believe that's you in front of the door.
Yes.
Nobody's checked that. If I Venmo'd you right now, Mahek, $601, then the IRS would be breathing down my neck to explain why. Yet $42 million can go to this dump of a door and nobody asks a question about it?
Well, let's be honest here. We went to 4 different addresses for the Somalian Education Resource Center, and finally the 4th one, voila. You not only saw their $42 million door, but the rest of the building, most of it was home healthcare services. Nobody was in there. Nobody really wanted to talk to us. But I'll tell you exactly why these places aren't getting audited. It's because we will be called racist. You already saw it in one of the videos where I got cornered by 3 Somalian men that said, "You're Indian. You're not white." Well, I'm sorry. I don't care what I am. Fraud is not acceptable in the United States of America. But they are shocked that somebody like me, an immigrant, could call this out because they think we're all one and the same. We're not. We're actually American first. If you come to this country, you follow the laws. And if you don't follow the laws, then you're going to get audited and you're going to get prosecuted. And I hope if you have a visa here, it gets thrown out and you get deported. But it's shocking to me that so many people are terrified still about the racist word. And I have to be honest, Benny, most of these places, the home healthcare and daycares, they're owned by Somalians. There's no targeting here. This is the nature of the business. This is the business they put themselves in. And when they're unwilling to answer basic questions and you're following me in a building and you're screaming at me, well, I have more questions then.
Here's the thing that I can't square, Mahek. How is it that you can run a business with no customers, with no clients, with no children? How is it that it's easier to find the foremost powerful communist dictator in our hemisphere than it is to find an actual child in a Somali daycare in this country?
I think that there's been an audit process that is just a rubber stamp. I think officials go in, they see issues in a daycare, including child record attendance, which is a massive problem in many of these daycares. And then they come back 3 to 4 months later. There's no check intermittently. And when I'm reading feces, bottles aren't being washed, unsanitary conditions, how are you even open? How are you even allowed to operate for the state to come back? That's when you get shut down. So there's a process that is wrong here. We have to audit our audit process. That's the problem here. We have a compliance issue. And I did go to a few daycares where they had children. They invited me in. They said, as long as you don't record us, have the conversation with us. They had children there. Some of them were saying, Mom, it's okay to take care of your child at a daycare, but they were open, they were transparent, they were willing to talk to me about the process. The ones I have a problem with are when a man is just bum rushing me at a door and physically assaulting me. There's no children in there and he's hiding something.
Here we have the clip. Actually, my producers just said, look at this. I should go back there. Let's go ahead and see this. Look at this. Yeah, let's hear it.
Get back! Get back! Get back!
Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
Get back!
Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
Get back! Get back! Get back!
Oh wow, these are the kind of people that you want watching your kids. This is your classic, the face of childcare right there. Look at this.
Yeah, it's scary, Benny. And I love when people say there's a no trespassing on the door. Look, I'm an attorney and I'll tell you right now, no trespassing, you need an invitation. But I knocked. There was a click, which means they've unlocked the door. You should lock your doors if you don't want people coming in. And I knocked and I was just going to ask about rates. So to be screamed at, berated, and then physically pushed, unacceptable. We're just out here asking questions. We never allege fraud, but it makes you think, what are they hiding? There weren't any children in there.
Well, yeah, that's right. I'm a small business owner. If you come to my small business and if you are not trying to, kill us, if you don't have a gun, then, expect a warm greeting, right? Like we have a small business. Obviously we've dealt with some death threats and so on. And so we do our best to stay, to be secure and protected. But if you go to any other small business in America, any legitimate business in America, you are going to often be met with, could you become a potential customer of mine? I mean, that's the purpose of all small business, whether you're selling a hamburger or a new sports car. Can I bring you in and sell you my services? But if you try and get any of the services from these Somali daycares, they'll scream at you, assault you, and then call the cops, which I guess tells you the whole story there, already, right? That's the whole story. They're not legitimate businesses.
Many of them, there's allegations of fraud. And when you have several police officers that are telling me they have never seen a child go in and out, when the entire community is doing a wink and nod, I'm asking, why don't we have a stronger audit process? And I just saw that the governor's office did put out a letter through the Department of Youth Services asking for attendance records. Okay, that's a great start. But let me tell you something about attendance records that I found out. You can actually backdate, because I asked a really nice lady, a Somalian lady, as I entered, I said, hey, I just have a question. What do you do with attendance records? Let's say I forgot to put my child through the system and log in my phone number and do a facial recognition. She said, oh, we can just backdate that. No big deal. The state allows us to do that. So again, guys, there's so many loopholes here. So there's not only a compliance issue, there's an audit issue. And then to tell the American public that everything's okay and this is a cost of business, it's unacceptable in Ohio and every other state. We have continued to rubber stamp and accept the status quo. And if it was your money or my money, by all means, we can spend it exactly how we want. But this is taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
As we're stretching dollars to pay for our children to go to school and daycare. I mean, I've talked to women, Benny, who want more kids, and they're like, how do I afford this? I didn't know I could set up a scam daycare and get paid to sit at my home and just pretend I'm taking care of children. This is insane. And it's not just daycare, it's every welfare system from home health care. Every time government money goes out, we have done nothing to think about what are the loopholes and who's actually taking advantage of Americans today. And so you have independent journalists and attorneys that are asking questions, and suddenly we're met with assaults, screaming, and then a government that says there's nothing to see here.
In conclusion here, how would you fix this in the state of Ohio, state of Minnesota? I think there's obviously the problem has been isolated. We've been able to see these are all fake companies that are fleecing the taxpayers and stealing the funds. So what would you do to fix it? I think that seems to be the main question as people begin to sort of spiral, and I don't like seeing it, but it's true. There's like a black pill going on where people are saying, why am I paying taxes?
Right.
Why am I part of this fraud, of this system? Is that the American dream? So that some off the boat Somali who hates our country can become a multimillionaire overnight. That's why I pay taxes for 50 years, work my fingers to the bone, nights, weekends. 30% of my paycheck goes to taxes for these people? No way. Not me.
Yeah.
So
And Benny,
what do you do to fix that?
you're talking to a legal immigrant who came here legally, and our family has followed every rule. This is what we do. We get prosecutors involved from the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney's Office who sit down and talk about how fraud is infiltrated. Because a lot of times when I go to them with the case, they're talking about the loopholes. So I want a session with the U.S. Attorney's Office and DOJ and our legislators to talk about all the loopholes. We need legislative fixes, but we also need prosecutions. If we don't prosecute
Yes.
and put people behind handcuffs, then we're going to continue to face a massive fraud scandal.
Yes.
And lastly, cut off state funding for every single state until we have an audit system that is approved and verified and is a gold standard for every state. The minute you cut off the funding, Benny, these people are going to self-deport because they realize you can't live off my money or your money or anybody else's. They came here because they knew that they could game the system.
Yes.
And if you cut off the funnel, well, they're all going to self-deport.
I think that no matter what, like the worst, like being homeless on the streets here is still better than being middle class in Somalia. So there is no such thing in Somalia. So I think I would like to believe you there. I guess we'll see what happens, but I agree with at least 99% of that. I'm just wondering if anyone will ever choose to self-deport back to the single worst country on earth, Somalia. No politician, Mehek, has ever explained why we have so many Somalians in America. Because it's indefensible, right? So,
It is.
yeah. Thank you for your work. We're proud to be working with you and amplifying your work. Everybody should follow Mehek right here. She has 70,000 followers on X. She's run for office here and there, maybe another political office in your future. We would love to support you in that because we need more voices like yours. Godspeed.
Thank you. God bless.